All right, Shalom. This is Har1 by Yasha Allah of the GMS Lions Den Camp. I want to say Kal Halayim, La Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Harakak Kodash, Ma'amaf. Double honor to the elder apostles, the GMS, and the elders. Shalom to you, Akim, Nagwatim, and children that believe in sincerity and truth around the four corners of the earth. What you're looking at here is a painting of supposed to be Daniel in the lion's den. Now, this is from the catacombs of Rome. The catacombs of Rome, which the word catacombs means the natural hollows, which were the where a lot of the Jews, the Israelites, were the poor of the Jews at that time were buried in what you call the catacombs of Rome. The same place where they had Indiana Jones and the Skull, where they filmed that movie at. That was called the catacombs. Now, the catacombs is a word meaning the natural hollows. Now, over the graves of these Jews, the Israelites, which were dark skinned, different colors too, understand, but the foundation of them were dark skinned, so-called Negroes. As far as the Southern Kingdom, they painted pictures of themselves over these grave sites and old stories from the Bible, right, to show who they were, and the things that Yahweh Bashim Shai brought us through. Like they had pictures of Yahweh Shai. They had pictures of Jonah in the well. All right. And right here, you're looking at Daniel in the lion's den. Now, there's something special about this because I want to share something. Daniel was in the lion's den twice. All right. One time was with Darius around 539 BC. All right, Darius the Mede. And the other time was with Cyrus the Great around 549 BC. All right. Now I want to Yahweh Ratazah, I want to prove that according to scripture. So I'm gonna start with Daniel chapter 6. All right, this is Daniel chapter 6. Now this is after the invasion of Babylon that happened to Nabonidus in the war. All right, you had something called the Battle of Opis, right? You see Opis right here in the middle, all right? And that battle happened in 539 BC, all right? Around June 539 BC, okay? And that was the first invasion of the Medes, and they came in through over Gutium, and they came into Opis, and they ran down to Sippar, and Sippar submitted to the Median army that was being ruled by Cyrus and Darius, right? And I'm gonna go into that as well. And then they came into Babylon in October of 539 BC, and that's when they killed Belshazzar later, the son of Nabonidus, the last king of Babylon. So when this happened, this was around 539 BC. All right, they came into Opis, and this is when Nabonidus was exiled. He was ran out into the wilderness. All right, when he was chilling in his palace. All right, and he was ran out to the wilderness, and he stayed out there, and he left his son in charge. All right. And the Most High had him stay out. Actually, I'm gonna get it. All right, this is Daniel chapter 4, verse 13. And this was when Daniel was prophesying to Nebuchadnezzar, all right, and telling him that he was going to fall, all right, telling him that the Lord was going to exile him, Yahweh specifically, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, was going to exile Nebuchadnezzar out of his kingdom, out of Babylon, and that he was going to remove his stump, which is his son, from being a regent. His son was never actually king. His son was still a prince, a regent that he would leave in power. But a lot of the government didn't like him because when he was left in charge, he would put a lot of hell on a lot of the politicians in Babylon. All right. He threatened to kill him. You know, and you had Daniel that was ruling as well. He was ruling as the third ruler. You know, and it's written in their steels, or the Chronicles of Nebuchadnezzar, right? It's written in that, and it tells you about a third ruler, and it was Daniel. And the scriptures tell you about Daniel being raised up, almost like a president. All right. But this is Daniel chapter 4 and 13. I saw in the vision of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher and a holy one came down from heaven. He cried aloud and said, hew down the tree and cut off his branches, shake off his leaves and scatter his fruit. Let the beast get away from under it, and the fowls from under his branches, meaning all of the political ties that he had with these nations. They all wanted Nebuchadnezzar out of power. They wanted him not to rule anymore. Places like Syria, Elam, the Assyrians, you know, Persians, the Medes, all right, even a lot of the Babylonians, which were mainly Arameans, all right, and Nubians, some of the Canaanites, and they all wanted, even the Arabians, they wanted, what's his name, Nebuchadnezzar out of power, all right, because he believed in, he wanted to have two idols worshipped when they just wanted to worship one idol. All right. He was dealing with Marduk, which is a pagan idol. And he wanted to bring in another idol called Sin. So they were trying to worship the moon on two different from two different angles, which is all pagan devil worship. All right. So the Lord turned him into a lunatic since he wanted to worship the moon. That's the definition of a lunatic. Somebody that howls at the moon. And that's what them pagans are. All right, lunatics. Now it says, verse 15, nevertheless, leave the stump of his roots in the earth. So the stump of his roots represents Belshazzar, all right? And Belshazzar means Baal save the king or some shit like that. The czar, right? The king. And it shows proof that Baal doesn't exist, you know? It's just a demon on the left-hand side, and Yahweh Bashim Yahushai controls everything and rules. And Daniel was protected, the one that was giving praise to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai and anointed by him. And these other idols and their followers were brought down and destroyed, as they will be today. All right, this is verse 15. It says, nevertheless, leave the stump of his roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beast and the grass of the earth, and let his heart be changed from man's, and let a man's heart be given unto him, and let 7 times pass over him. And that happened to Nebuchadnezzar. All right. I think Nebuchadnezzar started ruling in 556 BC, and he ended his rulership when he was taken out of power. He was exiled All right, he was actually kidnapped by the Median army. You know, when he tried to run back to Babylon, they ran back to the palace when Belshazzar was throwing that damn feast in the midst of all that shit. And Nebuchadnezzar, you had the Median army, which was being led by Darius, whose true name is Gobarius, G-O-B. I think it's G-O-B, Gobaris, all right, Y-R-A-S, Gobaris or something like that. And that's his true name. And he was born around 601 BC, the son of Astyages. All right, and I'm gonna prove that according to scripture. All right, so there's not Darius the Persian, which was started ruling in 522 BC, which is actually a true Persian. His father was a Persian. So now in the midst of this war that was happening in Opus, because Cyrus the Great was taking over all those lands, you know, over there west of Persia. All right. So this actually happened, you know, and it says what? Verse 17, this decree is by the decree of the watchers, the angels, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of men. All right. So and the Lord set up Daniel to be in the midst of all them rulers. All right. And the Most High shows that he can take anybody out of rulership and put anybody in power that he chooses. And in these times, he's choosing to raise up the children of Israel forever. All right, in the days where we live in. But I'm going to skip that. I did a lesson on this Daniel 4, but I'm going to go ahead and go to Daniel 5, I think. Maybe. Let me see. All right, I'm going to skip to the point. This is Daniel 5. Right, because the first half of Daniel, Daniel 1, 2, and 3, it talks about Nebuchadnezzar and his experience that he had with Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right, which were really Azariah, Mishael, and Hananiah, right? They and showed how Yahweh intervened, all right, and protected Daniel and the three anointed brothers. And they put fear upon Nebuchadnezzar and confounded their worship of these idols. All right. And from Daniel 4, 5, and 6, and 7, it goes into, or really up to 6, it goes into Nebuchadnezzar, which was the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, all right, a descendant of Nebuchadnezzar, and he worshipped the same idols, and he called himself the son of Nebu, just like Nebuchadnezzar did, all right. And he's set to build, put everything in order, just like Nebuchadnezzar did. All right, under the Babylonian mindset of Nebuchadnezzar's father. So that's what Nebuchadnezzar aimed to do. He aimed to bring all of that back to fruition. All right. And he was an Assyrian. He wasn't an African. So, but in the midst of that, it was a lot of revolts going on, and all these nations over there in the Asia Minor were aiming to put Cyrus the Great into power because he was a natural Persian. When this guy Nebuchadnezzar, he was an Assyrian, and they still didn't like that he was ruling. They didn't want him out of power. There was those Arameans and those Elamites and those Persians. They all wanted that Assyrian out of rulership. All right, so they was aiming towards Cyrus. Now, that's what you get. Actually, I'm gonna keep reading real quick. It says, "O thou," verse 18, Daniel 5 and 18, "O thou king, the most high Yahweh gave Nebuchadnezzar thy father a kingdom." He gave Nebuchadnezzar a kingdom and majesty and glory and honor. And for the majesty that he gave him, all people, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whom he would, he slew, and whom he would, he kept alive. And whom he would, he set up, and whom he would, he put down. But when his heart was lifted up, and his mind hardened his pride, he was deposed from his kingly throne, and they took his glory from him. So the Lord allowed the Medes to take the glory from Nebuchadnezzar. All right, the Medes came in and ran him out of Opus, ran him out of Sippar, out of the palace, and then ultimately ran him, took him captive and killed his son over in Babylon, in the capital. All right. And it says, as he was driven from the sons of men, see, and his heart was made like the beast, and his dwelling was with the wild asses. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven. So he was out there living like an animal. Till he knew that the Most High Yahweh ruled in the kingdom of men. So he was forced, the same way Esau is going to be punished and forced to admit that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is the true power in the kingdom. All right, the same way the Lord put hell on Nebuchadnezzar and showed that he can do it at any time he chooses, just like he could have did it to Antiochus. But he didn't do it to, but the Lord allowed Esau to put hell on us because we didn't listen. All right, but he can remove that that threat of death at any time, that suffering, that affliction. All right. It says, as he was driven from the sons of men, his heart was made like. All right. All right. So till he knew that the Most High Yahweh ruled in the kingdom of men, and that he appointed over it whomsoever he will. And thou, his son, O Belshazzar, has not humbled thine heart, though thou knewest all this, right? Because he already knew this. He knew this happened to his father. Right? He knew that his dad was got to getting his ass whooped. You know, he was out there bugging. And it says, but has lifted up thyself against Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, the Lord of heaven. And they have brought the vessels of his house before thee, and thou and thy lords, thy wives, and thy concubines have drunk wine in them. And thou hast praised the gods of silver and gold, of brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not, nor hear, nor know. And the God in whose hand thy breath is, and whose are all thy ways, hast thou not glorified, man. All right. So they didn't glorify Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. And Belshazzar, he took all of the priestly artifacts, the stuff from the altar, the temple, the gold and silver from Jerusalem that was taken during the times of Nebuchadnezzar in 586 BC. And around 606 BC, before the Battle of Carchemish, they went in there and took it. And Jehoiakim gave up a lot of stuff over to Nebuchadnezzar. All right. And they gave up a lot of artifacts. And that same stuff was being partied. They was using it, partying with it. All right. These Assyrians, these heathens. And Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, Yahweh sent Yahushua and his angels to scare the shit out of this dude. Literally, he lost his bowels. And in the midst of him partying with the stuff, the Lord sent a hand upon the wall, and he wrote in the Hebrew, and this is what he wrote. All right. It says, and then was the part of the hand sent from him, and this writing was written. It says, and this is the writing that was written. It says, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. All right. And in the Hebrew, let me get that. All right. This is Mene, which is it says Mana'ah, right? Mana'ah, which means numbered, a weight or measurement, usually 50 shekels, but maybe 60 shekels. So it's saying his time is numbered. The kingdom is numbered, right? All right. And it says Tekel. And that says Thaqual, right? Thaqual. And it says to balance, to weigh, to be weighed. Tekel, a unit of weight. All right. And right here, what's this one? And this one is paras, right? Paras. And it means to split up. So the kingdom was split in two. It was split between the Medes with Darius or Gabarus, and also with Cyrus the Great as the lead. You know, the one side was lifted up. All right, this is Daniel chapter 7, verse 5. And it says, actually verse 4. The first was like a lion, and it had eagle's wings. It's talking about the Assyrian Empire. And I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked. All right. It's talking about the military and the army was plucked off by Nebuchadnezzar, which is of the Chaldean. He was an Assyrian that became a Chaldean in worship, you know, in their customs. And they voted him into power. And he helped to bring down the Assyrian Empire in 612 BC. All right, called the Fall of Nineveh. And Nineveh had to fight on two fronts against the Medes. All right. So anyway, so it forced to fight on two fronts. Now it says, I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. All right. And that man's heart was talking about Nebuchadnezzar. All right. He put his whole mindset and his laws and power in place, and began to build up Babylon after his mindset. And then following, his son took that on to do so in 605 BC. His son was named Nebuchadnezzar. All right. It says, and behold, another beast, a second like to a bear. And the beast means the kingdom. And it was like unto a bear. It raised up itself on one side. And what it's talking about is it was like a bear, meaning powerful, right, and strong. And he raised up himself on one side, and that one side was Persia, with Cyrus the Great of Pars in 560 BC. All right. Now, all right. So Daniel 7 and 5, and behold, another beast, a second like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. So the Persian Empire, the Medes, they helped to revolt against the Median king Astyages in 550 BC. really from 552 all the way to 549. They revolted against Astyages as the Median king, and which Cyrus the Great was voted into power. And it was one time when he was allowed to go see his parents in that area, Cambyses the first. He was allowed to go see his father, and then that's when the revolt started. All right, they set up a military plan that way and handed off messages to the civilians in the army of Astyages. And they did a military coup against the Median government. So Astyages' main general, Harpagus, if you look him up, a guy named Harpagus, one of his generals helped to overthrow Astyages. All right. In the called the Battle of Ecbatana. All right, which at that time you had Cyrus the Great. He was called the ruler or the king of Anshan, which is over there near Elam. Or let me see, I got a picture of it. And you had what's his name? Astyages, which was the king of the Medes at that time, and they fought in the Battle of Ecbatana around 550. And Astyages was overthrown. They lost that battle, and then he was overthrown in 549 BC. All right, you can see right here. As a marker, we're going to use Susa. All right, Shushan, which all belonged to Babylon until what's his name? Cyrus the Great started taking all these areas. All right, around 549 BC. All right, in 546 he became king of all Persia, that whole area. You know, but before that he was known as the king of Anshan, and then in 547 he took Lydia. Right, I don't know if Lydia is on here, but he took Lydia. Right here. Let me see if this is on here. Lydia. There you go. This is Lydia right here. So in 547, he took Lydia. All right, in 546, he became the king of all this area. All right, and his capital was Persia. All right, and you had Darius over here in the Medes, and Cyrus the Great gave him Babylon too. Had him look over Babylon. All right. But that battle that happened between Astyages and Cyrus the Great happened in 550 right here. 552 to 550. All right. Right there. And that's when he got this whole area. You know, so he was going all through these areas. And by the time 539 hit, Cyrus the Great was up here in this area in Assyria, calming down a revolt that happened against them, with the Assyrians, right? The Asherites. And that's why he left Darius or Garbarius in power to govern over the invasion with the Medes going into Babylon. And that's when they took Opus. And that's when they took Sippar. And then ultimately they took Babylon in October of 539 BC. And they killed Belshazzar within that. All right. And you had Darius the Great. His name was Garbarius. He was a Mede. He was left in power by Cyrus. And they marched into Babylon first, and then Cyrus the Great showed up later. All right, the army marched in first, and Cyrus the Great showed up days later, and then that's when they took over. All right, and that was all prophetic. All right, verse 5, it says, another beast and behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side. That means Persia, all right, in Pars, with Cyrus the Great. And it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, and that was Persia, Babylon, the Medes, and Lydia. All right, so it's Lydia, Babylon, and Media. All right, so that's who Persia had in his grip to rule over the other nations as well. And that's when they called Cyrus the Great king of lands. All right, and later on they called him king of Babylon. After Darius died around 538, they called him king of Babylon. And he put somebody else in place of Gobarias, of Darius the Great, over Babylon. And it says, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it, and that's Lydia, Babylon, and the Media. All right, so Cyrus the Great took Media in 549 BC. He took Lydia in 547, and took Babylon really from 540 to 539 BC. All right. And it says, and they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. And that's what the nations were saying to Cyrus the Great. They were saying, we're going to back you in becoming the new ruler. All right. So with that being said, man, I'm going to start with Bel and the Dragon instead of Daniel 6, because this actually happened first. This happened around 549, 548 BC. All right, when Cyrus the Great was moving through all those areas over there near Jerusalem and near Palmyra, where they had the temple of Bel at. All right, and over there near Shushan. All right, and you can read in Daniel chapter 2, where he was moving all around through those different palaces. All right, they had him moving around as an advisor. And he would pray to Yahweh Shem Shai in all these places, though. Now it says Bel and the Dragon. All right, now Bel and the Dragon. The Medes and the Persians, they worshiped the idol called the dragon. And the Chaldeans, the Babylonians, they had an idol called Bel. All right. All right. This is the dragon of Marduk. See this bullshit here? And this is still on the walls of Babylon today. All right, that's what you're looking at on the Ishtar gates. It's called the Marduk. It says the dragon of Marduk. Marduk basically is the worship of the moon. All right, it's a moon deity. It says Marduk was depicted as a human, often with his symbol, the snake dragon, the serpent man. So they worshiping the devil, which he had taken over from the demon Tishpak. Another symbol that stood for Marduk was the spade. Wow. Babylonian texts talk of the creation of that shit by the demon Marduk as the first city, the holy city, the dwelling of their other idols. So, yeah, man. So that's the dragon, and that goes back to what? That's all they're doing is worshiping the moon. All right. Let's see. And it says, I know it's going to be on here somewhere. Pause it. All right. Now, I didn't know this was here, but check this out. It says the name Marduk was probably pronounced Marduk, right? The etymology of the name Marduk is conjectured as derived from Amarutu, immortal son of, or bull calf of the sun deity Utu. Look at that shit, man. So they worship in the sun. All right, with Marduk. All right, so it's not a moon deity. It's the sun. They worshiping the sun, man, or Jupiter. All right. The bull. Look at that calf. The origin of Marduk's name may reflect an earlier genealogy, or have had cultural ties to the ancient city of Sippar. That's what I was talking about. See that? See, cultural ties to the ancient city of Sippar, and that's where I believe they were worshiping Cyrus the Great met up with Daniel at, over in that area. And also I believe that's where what's his name? Nabonidus was when he got ran out of there. Because that's the last place they invaded before they got to Babylon in 539 BC. All right. And there was a palace over there. And also in Sippar. All right. You see right there where the Euphrates is at. I don't know if you can see it because it's all covered. But right here is around there where Sippar is. All right. And you see right here Babylon. And right here they have the temple. Or the Tower of Babel. All right, the golden image, that's where they put the image at with Nebuchadnezzar. And so on and so on. Right around the Euphrates and right around that palace over there in Sippar. All right. All right, see right here, Sippar. And you have Susa. And there goes Susa right here. All right. And you have the Euphrates River, so that's where Sippar is at, up in there. And that's where they were doing all their idol worship at. All right. And you had the Medes and you had the Chaldeans. Now, so I'm going to read that again. The origin of Marduk's name may reflect an earlier genealogy or have had cultural ties to the ancient city of Sippar, all right, whose idol was Utu, the sun idol, dating back to the 3rd millennium BC. You know, and it says by Hammurabi period, that was around in the thousands, right? 1400s or something like that. By the Hammurabi period, Marduk had become astrologically associated with the planet Jupiter. All right, so that's the understanding of who the dragon is. Now let's go to Bel. All right, and I just wanted to read this as a just in case, because as I said, I believe that he was in Susan or over there near Sippar, meeting up with Daniel. But it could have happened here, right here. I'm gonna read this one too. It says, other gods called, and this is about Baal, right? Baal really basically means the Lord of Flies. Other idols called Lord could be and sometimes were identified totally or in part with Bel Marduk. See, the idol Malak Bel of Palmyra. And an example, see, Palmyra is over there in Syria. All right, and that area was taken a little after 549 BC. All right, when Cyrus the Great was laying the siege against Lydia in 547. So he could have met up with Daniel either in Palmyra or over there, Palmyra right near Jerusalem, or he could have met up with him in the palace where Nabonidus was caught up at over there in Sippar. All right. So it says, let me see what this is. So it's basically the sun deity. All right. Look at this shit, man. So it's just all idol worship. All right. It says, was a sun deity. Malak Bel was a sun deity in the city of Palmyra in pre-Islamic Syria. All right. And it says, Look at this. Look at all this crazy shit, man. Yeah, I'm gonna leave all this alone. But yeah, it's just two idols, man. All right. You had basically one's gonna wind up being the worship of the sun and the worship of the moon. All right. So now Bel and the dragon. And this still goes along with the Medes and the the Persians, all right, the Babylonians. That whole incident that was happening with Cyrus the Great being raised up. Now it says the king Astyages, and King Astyages was gathered to his fathers, and Cyrus of Persia received his kingdom. See, and Astyages died in summer of 549 BC. All right, or in winter. All right. Now you had after Astyages died, at the military coup that happened against him with Harpagus, a Mede, Darius, his son, gave allegiance to Cyrus. All right. Now, I'm gonna show proof that Darius was the son of the king of the Medes. All right. All right. This is Daniel chapter 9, verse 1. In the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus. All right. Now, Ahasuerus, that's just a title that means holder of the scepter. That can be used for Xerxes, or it can be used for the term Darius. Now, right here is being used for Darius, or Astyages, all right, the holder of the scepter. So Ahasuerus, that's basically Astyages, all right. It says of the seed of the Medes, man. In the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, which basically supposed to say the son of Astyages. It says, of the seed of the Medes. See, he was of the seed of the Medes, which was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans. So he was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans, man. And that happened in 539 BC, after Cyrus the Great arrived in Babylon. He made, he crowned, what's his name? Gobarias, whom they call Darius, the holder of the scepter. That's what the word Darius means. It's just a title. All right. So Cyrus crowned him as the regent or ruler over the area of Babylon, as well as the Medes. All right. Okay, check this out. I'm gonna go ahead and read this. It says, in the book of Daniel, right? And Ahasuerus was used many times throughout the scriptures for Xerxes, Artaxerxes. But right here in the book of Daniel, it says Ahasuerus is given as the name of the father of Darius the Mede. I didn't know that was there, man. As the name of the father of Darius the Mede in the book of Daniel. Josephus names Astyages as the father of Darius the Mede. See, and if I get the Josephus, I can find it too. All right, I'm gonna read this part, man. This is out of Josephus, the Antiquities of the Jews, book 10, verse chapter 11. All right, verse 4. All right, chapter 4. I mean, or was that verse 4? Yeah. Well, anyway, the Josephus is not the Bible, of course, but you know, the Josephus go off sometimes, and he was basically a sellout that told both sides of the story. You know, he made it out of that. The Jewish wars against the Romans, and he joined the side of the Romans to act as a narrator of both sides of the story. All right, but the scriptures tell the story, the side of the story that the Most High want to be known for salvation. So, but it doesn't go off right here where it talks about this dealing with Cyrus and Astyages. Check this out. It says, now after a little, I'm starting from right here. Now after a little while, both himself and the city were taken by Cyrus. So Nebuchadnezzar was taken into captivity, and the city of Opis and Sapar was taken. All right. It was taken by what? Cyrus, the king of Persia. All right. And that's what he was known as at the time, the king of Persia, who fought against him. For it was Belshazzar under whom Babylon was taken. All right. So Babylon was left in the hands of the stump spoken of in the book of Daniel. All right, with Nebuchadnezzar and his son. All right, Babylon was left in charge of his son, the regent, while he was exiled. All right. Now it says, where was that? Who fought against him? For it was Belshazzar, under whom Babylon was taken, when he had reigned 17 years. Now, all right, so his Nebuchadnezzar started ruling in 556. So his son was made regent and prince in that same year or the next year. All right, so he ruled. He was basically co-ruler with his dad. He was never fully established as king though. All right, for 17 years. All right, it says, for it was Belshazzar under whom Babylon was taken, when he had reigned 17 years. And this is the end of the posterity of King Nebuchadnezzar. That means his bloodline was cut off from that point. As history, cut off from rulership. As history informs us, but when Babylon was taken by Darius the Mede, and when he, with his kinsman Cyrus, right, the Persians and the Medes, they were like cousins damn near. His kinsman Cyrus, right, because they were related through marriage, dealing with Astyages being married to somebody in Cyrus's family, or Cyrus being married to Astyages' daughter. I just can't remember. I gotta go back and look at the story. But it says, but when Babylon was taken by Darius, and when he, with his kinsman Cyrus, had put an end to the dominion of the Babylonians, he was 62 years old, and that goes along with scripture. All right. He was the son of Astyages, see, and had another name among the Greeks, right? So among the Greeks, they called him Gobarias. All right. It says, moreover, he took Daniel the prophet and carried him with him into Media, and honored him very greatly, and kept him with him, for he was one of the 3 presidents whom he set over his 360 provinces. For into so many did Darius part them. All right, so that happened around 539 BC, once all the provinces was given to Darius from Cyrus. All right, so Daniel was thrown in the lion's den twice. All right. All right, so Ahasuerus is given as the name of the father of Darius the Mede. All right, so Darius the Mede, and he was born around 601 BC, and he ruled around 539 BC, and that'd be 62 years according to scripture. All right, so back to the scripture, Daniel 5. It says 5:26, and this is the interpretation of the thing. Mene, right? Mana'ah, Yahweh have numbered thy kingdom and finished it. And it was like 60 or something like that. And Babylon was around for about 62 years. All right. Or 65 years or so. 27, Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting. It says takwal, right? And Pars, it says Paras, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persian. So it was divided up. All right. Cyrus the Great gave the delegation or governance over to Darius or Darius, the son of Astyages, man, as a repayment. Because they tried to kill Cyrus in the same way, but instead he looked out. They wanted him to kill Astyages' son, but instead he didn't kill him. He looked out for him. All right. Verse 29 says, then commanded Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet, and put a chain of gold about his neck, and made a proclamation concerning him, that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. All right, so if you look at the Nebuchadnezzar's Chronicles, it talks about a third ruler. All right, so Daniel was the third ruler in the kingdom. So that lets you know that there was a number one ruler too. So Belshazzar was the second ruler. He was known as the regent. Then you had another regent under him, which would be Daniel. All right. But this is the point. 30, it says, in that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain. And that happened in October 539 BC. And it says, and Darius, the Median, see, he was a Mede. He wasn't of Persia. All right, he was a Mede. So that lets you know exactly who he's talking about. The separation between this Darius and Darius the Persian that ruled in 522. Two different people. It says, and Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old. So he was 62 years old. All right, so 601, take away 539 would be 62. See? And that's when he was given that rulership over those provinces. Darius the Mede was given rulership over Babylon, as he was already the lead general over the Medes. All right, under Cyrus the Great. And he started ruling when he was 62 years old. That's how you know it's Darius as well too. All right. So Darius would have been about 52 when his dad died. All right, Astyages was killed, and in 550, 549. So he'd be about 53. Now he started ruling and was given that province over Babylon by Cyrus, and when he was 62, and that was 539 BC of October. All right, now you have this Darius here. He started ruling when? In 522. All right, he was the one that killed Bardia, which was an imposter. All right, the Magi that took Bardia, which was the brother of Cambyses. They tried to say he killed him. It was a whole scandal. And what's his name? This Darius here, he brought all the true Persians in and killed the imposter Bardia. All right, who was known as an imposter. So that's why Bardia is not counted as a king, and Xerxes is counted as the fourth king. All right, so he killed the imposter Bardia, and he took rulership in 522 BC. And his father was named Hystapsis, which is who? And he was a cousin to Cyrus, all right, as you can see here. and that's why they say he was an actual Persian. All right, right here you see Cyrus, and he was a Persian as well. All right, and that's why he took it personal when this guy Smerdis was actually an imposter. So he killed Smerdis in 522 and took his seat. All right, and brought it back to that true Persian bloodline. So this guy here was a Persian satrap. All right, so he was the father of Darius. All right. So you had two different Dariuses. You had Darius the Mede, which was the son of Astyages, and Darius the Persian, the son of Hystapsus. All right, Vistaptus.